Good afternoon, everybody. It gives me immense pleasure to be present for this particular program. Without taking much time, I request I would like to introduce today's resource person for this session. We have two personalities with us. First, I would like to introduce Shyam sir. Shyam is a leader and entrepreneurship with 18 years of experience in the software development. He completed his BE from Basvesh Engineering College in the year 2001 and pursued his MS from IIT, Chicago. He worked for Yan, a media and technology company for 15 years and managed multiple teams. His current ventures, Spring Evening Private Limited, a software development company that specializes in developing innovative solutions for business and Big Bite Foods, a company that manufactures idli and dosa batter in Bagalkot. I allowed him to continue to grow and learn as a technology leader and entrepreneur. With this brief, I present Mr. Shyam to all of you. We have another resource person for today's program, Sri Sidhu Kerkalmurti sir. He is also a proud alumni for Engineering College. He is a partner with the same Sir Shyam sir's venture. He has completed his engineering with the CS branch in the year 2000. With this brief, I present Sidhu Kerkalmurti sir. I request Dr. Madam to present a bouquet to Sidhu sir.
Software developers have started now producing idli and dosa batter. Okay, so it is the most interesting story. So listen carefully, and if you have any doubts, you can ask or clarify your doubts. Thank you.
First of all, hello everyone. Before I begin, I do want to thank everyone, the faculty members over here, for giving us this opportunity to come over here and talk to you guys. It gives us an immense pleasure to talk to you and discuss what we have done so far and discuss our journey with you guys. And thank you, thanks sir, thanks everyone. So we're gonna start. This is basically the agenda over here. You can see there will be introduction, there will be some sections over here, and I'm going to give my introduction and my partner Sidhu Kerkalmurti's introduction a little bit. But this is the agenda that we plan to go through. Okay. Once again, Shyam Sundar Sedamkar. I go by Shyam. I'm the CEO and founder of Spring Evening Private Limited. As Sir said, it's a software company that we started a few months back in Bagalkot only. It's in old Bagalkot. Along with that, I'm also co-founder for Big Bite Foods, and for that, CEO is Sidhu Kerkalmurti. So before we get to the word CEO over here, I don't want to stress a lot on that, just because CEO in the startup world, there is no executiveness at all. Usually it's a chief executive officer, but for my company or for BitBite, it's more of chief everything officer. That means we are only few of us. For example, in Spring Evening, it's just me and few of my wife and my brother. So we do everything over there. Same with the BitBite Foods. He is the CEO. The reason we call CEO is he does everything for us right now. So that's why obviously there is not executive as of now, but obviously once we grow, we are very young in that sense. We are just 2.5 months into both the companies. We started almost around, it's just been 2.5 to 3 months right now. Before I started these couple of ventures, I was in US for almost 18-20 years. I did my master's as I did my engineering in 2001, and I passed and I did my MS masters in US. After that, I worked for a company for almost 15+ years for the same company. That was it's called Gannett. It's basically what you can think Gannett as more of like a Times of India. There is an equivalent. There is a USA Today, same thing, where it's a newspaper industry, like media industry. So I worked for that company for almost 15 years. In 2020, I moved back from US to India and again I worked for another 2 years for like work from home. So I worked for them for 2 more years, and in 2022 we all started in the same time I started Spring Evening, and with my friends Sidhu and few others we started BitBite Foods. So before we get to some basic, I know some of these might be little bit basic, bear with me, sorry for that, but I do want to make sure we are all on the same page once we go through the slides. Startup is basically a very young company, as I said. All it does is it solves certain problem, or it gives you a product like it's funded to solve one of the unique. It's not just the startup who has to go through innovation. Frankly speaking, even existing company, the established companies also have to do it. Always be on innovative side, because to stay relevant, especially I would say in the IT world, because I have a little bit. My background is IT, so I might be using some references to IT now and then. Innovation has to happen even on the companies who have been here for centuries, because if they can't do innovate, they won't be relevant, and they will go out of business pretty soon if they don't innovate, even though if they are established companies. The next is the prototype and MVP. Both are not the same, obviously. Prototype is where you just do something, like you have an idea and you make a form into something which you can show it to any user or investor or something. It doesn't need to be working. Prototype is again, in IT world is much easier, because let's say that I have an app, or I have an idea for an app. I can use some of these free tools like Figma and Sketch, where I can sketch the flow of an app. I don't even need to develop a single line of code, but I can still show investors that how I plan to use or how users can use my product. So that gives an idea for investor to know what this product is. So that is the prototype. These two are used interchangeable sometimes, but they are not the same. I do want to make sure that you guys understand that, because the MVP is where it has to solve bare minimum viable product. That means it has to solve the problem that you are trying to solve. It might not solve everything, but it has to do at least something that you plan to. It can't be just a sketch or something. It has to be a little bit working copy so that you can go to the market. You have to get out to the bare minimum. It doesn't have to be fully functional, which is true, but it has to solve something you plan to do. I'm going to take one quick example about the Dropbox. The reason I mentioned over there is, do you guys know about Dropbox? Dropbox is basically the photo sharing. Like you can add photos like Google Photos. It's exactly like that. But the way it happened was Dropbox founders, when they thought about this, they really didn't even put a single line of code. All they did was a video of saying how Dropbox might work. Using that, they got the funding from the investor, and then they went back and started to put into technology or IT. Till then, they didn't have any developer, they didn't put anything. That's one way of just doing a prototype. It helps.